I wonder whether, you know, along with this fantastic boost for artificial intelligence, what you do about the potential consequences of AI long term, that, you know, all of our jobs effectively might be done by robots and everybody's out of a job.
Well, I'm sure nobody could replace you, but there's no doubt that it's true that many jobs are already being affected by technology, and there are likely to be more of that to come. But our view is that we don't have a choice about that. That is happening. The choice we do have is, do we make sure that the new jobs and the new development of this technology happens here in the UK? And therefore, the replacement jobs must be here in Britain. And to do that, we've got to stay as a leader in artificial intelligence and the other new technologies. And today's £1 billion deal, partly funded by government, partly by the private sector, some new international companies deciding to headquarter here in the UK. This is all about making sure that we generate and we capture the new jobs to replace those that are affected by technology. There are big advantages to this new technology. For instance, I met a firm in the last couple of days who have got a piece of technology that can predict the likelihood of your plane being delayed even before you go to the airport, and a bit like weather forecasting. Now, we can get around quicker because we use maps on our phones. We can communicate with people across the world more easily than we ever could. So there are big advantages to the new technology, but it also brings with it risks. It changes the way that people behave, and we've got to make sure that we harness it for the good of society. So
your colleague Jeremy Hunt has, you know, warned of unintentional harm, saying that Facebook and Google are turning a blind eye to children, and, you know, has asked the big companies to come up with proposals. Should there be limits on screen time, particularly for children? Should there be a raising of the age for children to take part in social media? For instance, WhatsApp is proposing to increase the limit from 13 to 16. But if something comes up on your phone and says, "Are you 16?" you know, what 13-year-old's not going to click yes?
Well, that's right, and I think that we should have a debate about limits on screen time.
Should they be government imposed, though?
Well, it's a good question, because lots of people say it should be a parental responsibility, but some parents don't understand the technology as well as their children. So, you know, that is a good question.
You're a father, Matt, aren't you? You've got 3 children, I think 5, 10, 11. Is that right? What are the rules in your house?
Well, they're essentially not online. They go online occasionally, supervised to do homework. And sometimes if they want to, if they're being given money and want to buy a Christmas present or something, but always supervised. They don't have their own accounts. I want to keep it that way for as long as possible because, you know, my children, as you say, my eldest is 11, they're not capable yet of dealing with the pressures that you come under when you go online, and you know
one of the arguments as well, though, Matt, would be that unless we arm our children with the ability to be able to cope in those sort of situations, they're not going to be able to cope further on down the line, and maybe the earlier we start with it, the more wise they'll be.
I don't buy that at all. I mean, they're children and they're growing up in the world, and the world's complicated enough. And of course, there'll come a time when they'll go online and use social media, no doubt, and be able to cope with that. But you know, they're small. And one of the concerns I have with the social media companies is their own enforcement of their own codes of practice. So you mentioned that WhatsApp and as it happens, Facebook as well, at the moment have a rule saying you can only be on when you're 13. But to enforce that rule, they just ask for a declaration. And of course, people can just say that they're older than they are. And that in itself brings problems later on when they're automatically thought to be 18, an adult, when they're not. So the enforcement of the social media companies' own terms and conditions is a problem. And as it happens, I'm having a roundtable with the social media companies today to talk about what they're going to do to tackle some of these problems.
Okay.
And we don't rule out future legislation if it's necessary.
Did you notice he said you couldn't be replaced? He didn't say me about AI. Unless it was like, was it? I'm hoping it was.
Right.
Was it a plural you, Matt, or was it just Susanna?
Well, Susanna's irreplaceable.
Oh, you see.
Just Susanna.
She's done it again. Thank you, Matt Hancock. Thanks a lot.